Welcome to today's podcast interview. I brought on Naranjan Nota. Naranjan, welcome.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes. For those new to you, can you please give a little background? Where do you live and what do you do?
I'm based in Toronto, Canada, but I work with clients all over the globe. I support individuals to clear the energetic and emotional clutter that we come in with in life and support them to reunite with their own soul purpose, reunite with their own energies, but also to clear pathways from intergenerational trauma, past, present, and future, so they can really step into what they are designed to do, but clear the pathway for their future generations.
Okay, I love that. And you know what I talk a lot about is the idea of and what I see come across a lot is people feel, and I use the word stuck. Stuck mentally, stuck financially. And so I'm really big on the subconscious mind and understanding the programming. I've heard that our reality is literally a printout of the subconscious mind. But I would love to hear more from you. How did you get started in this work?
My own life. I'm a great believer of doing your own work before you can guide anybody through that process. And I'm no stranger to challenges and obstacles in life because we all have them. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
I chose the route of tapping into spirituality and deepening my consciousness and expanding that on a different level to seek out solutions to third dimensional problems.
If somebody is new to that term consciousness, can you please explain that from, the spiritual aspect? What is consciousness?
It's an aspect of your awareness. So what is it you are aware of? You're aware when you buy a red car, you become aware of all the other red cars on the road. So when you expand your awareness in how you live and breathe through the world, you become more aware of the things, places, and people that evoke experiences in you. So that to me is an element of expanding an awareness, but also expanding your consciousness.
For those who are new on their journey and just getting into this work, becoming more aware, something I heard years ago and I loved it. It's like humanity is walking around with amnesia. We forgot who we are. It's like we're sleepwalking, going through autopilot, self-imposed, struggling. And so I'd love to hear from you and shine a new light on a whole nother reality and experience that we can have in this 3D.
It would really be to remove the distractions from our external devices and gift yourself the opportunity in being with just you.
Can you share some modalities on creating presence and what somebody can do, because there's tons of ways to go about it, right? Meditation, breath work, journaling, grounding, nature. Yeah. But maybe what are some specific things you do or that got you started or that you teach others?
Leave your phone at home, leave your AirPods at home, leave all technology devices at home and go for a walk in nature. I know there's a retreat called Vipassana. I've done it once, but I think it's a great eye-opener for individuals to step into their own awareness of who they are, where are the twitches, what are the thoughts that are happening. And what they do in that practice is you check every single communicative device at the door. You're not allowed to talk to anybody. You're not allowed to look at anybody. You don't have a pen. You don't have nothing. And you stay there for 10 days.
You're talking about the silent retreats, right?
Silent meditation retreat, which is called Vipassana. That's right.
Yes.
So going on something like that, being in a space where others are not influencing your emotions, your thoughts, your behaviors, and all those kind of things that we get so accustomed to doing in life.
Well, and the media and social media, everybody is vying for our energy and our focus and spamming us with whatever their agenda may be. So here's a question for you, because I shared with you before we started recording, I call myself a recovering type A. I was go, 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 busy 7 days a week, didn't want to sit alone in my thoughts, didn't want to be alone. To today, I crave silence. I love alone time. But for example, one of my coaching clients last summer, through the process, I invited him to sit in stillness, to practice meditation, breath work. And he literally, his words were, I felt like I was crawling out of my skin. It was so uncomfortable for him. And I love Dr. Joe Dispenza says, you have to sit through the fire of discomfort.
Yeah.
Somebody who is new to this that feels like they're crawling out of their skin or it's so uncomfortable, how can we share with them that the only way past all of that is through it?
Imagine yourself being in school and you're sitting through that class on that subject that you really don't want to be there. How uncomfortable was that? But you, to a certain degree, you needed to go through that to be able to go to middle school and high school and university and learn what you know now. Yeah. So be accustomed to being uncomfortable. Get acquainted with it fast, because it's the only way out.
Now,
and
go ahead.
And while it's the only way out, it's how we label it. Does being uncomfortable, is it a bad thing? Because it's been taught to us that it's a really bad thing.
Yeah.
What if we repositioned it, reframed it as being uncomfortable is actually a good thing? Because you're growing, you're expanding, you're undoing the things that are not serving you.
The visual that came to mind while you were sharing that was, think about a butterfly, right? So that caterpillar goes through a discomfort and a dark period in their cocoon and has to break out of that to become this marvelous, free being, liberation. And I feel that's what most people are truly after, right? They think it's money, they think it's success, but they're really after that freedom, liberation, and abundance, which is our natural birthright.
Right.
So now could we talk about all those blocks that are keeping people stuck mentally, emotionally?
They are aspects of our lives that are begging for our attention. So we can clear that energetic and emotional clutter in our lives to align with who we truly are.
Can we
They're
give
there
some
for a reason.
Can we give some examples? What do we mean by this energetic clutter?
The feeling of codependent relationships, attachments to places, people, and things. This thing that fills us up from an external device. Relationships, conversations, others' thoughts, belief systems, values that you've taken on that are not really yours. All of this that swirls in our mind that gives us the impression that this is who I am, but it's really not.
Identity, right? I'd love to hear from you. Can you describe what it means, identity or self-image, like these masks people are wearing?
There are a myriad of masks that people wear, and they wear them for different reasons. Be it, they don't want to tell their own truth, or they're just people pleasing because they want to belong into a community or in relationship. But there's deeper reasons why people behave wearing different masks with different people. And that comes to intergenerational trauma. It's past life experiences, not only for you as an individual, but also connected to your ancestors and your lineage. There's a reason why everything happens. Everything.
Can we talk more about something you shared with me before we started recording? I shared with you, I saw something yesterday. It was on Instagram. It was a reel that this human experience is our school. Mm-hmm. And that there's a purpose for being here. And you shared that we all have a purpose in life and the need to connect within and create presence. So can we talk more about how this is a school that we're learning, we're here for growth, and what is our purpose?
Our purpose is to remember, so rejoin.
Yeah.
This aspect of God, universe, divine, bigger, whatever you want to call that other entity that's bigger, greater than you and I, to rejoin that, remember that. That's the purpose.
Some schools of thought that I've heard this from, A Course in Miracles. Are you familiar with A Course in Miracles?
I am, yes.
So I've dabbled in it. For me, it was too heavy. It didn't feel good. Where I guess I like more of the quantum physics side of things, understanding this is all energy and vibration, and our emotions are an indicator of where we are. But my question there was, an image that has come to me is that it's like we're all droplets of one ocean. But that this human experience has created separation, duality, and that's all the suffering, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for those that do feel, okay, so an easy way to explain this is like you can go through this human experience, surviving, struggling, just getting by, woe is me. Or you can thrive and live in joy and love and grow through this. Can we explain kind of the differences? Sometimes I refer to it as like that victim mentality, the blame game, or that humility and taking responsibility. And as you said, remembering who we are. But that's a process. So how do you even walk someone through? Where do you begin?
Where they're at that moment of time. Whatever's showing up in life at that moment is where you begin. That's where I begin with my clients. Whether you are way advanced into the quantum field and into all of that, you've read a gazillion books and you know all of that, I'll meet you there. To the person who is addictive scrolling on their phone, I'll meet you there. Because I'm not here to judge where you're at to support you. My purpose is to support you from where you are at.
Now, is there a specific process? What do you do? So for clients, supporting them where they're at, I totally understand that. But what is the journey? Where are you getting them to go? What is the awakening, or what is your process? What are you helping them with?
Clearing the emotional clutter that we talked about. So all those feelings and emotions that we have of feeling ashamed, feeling abandoned, feeling guilty, all of those emotions that have heightened up for a lot of people. Walking them through that, processing them on a mental level, but also on a spiritual level. And once you clear that clutter, then it opens space for your intuition to get louder. And when your intuition gets louder, then you can tap into your higher self and be in more union with Mother Earth and all the other energies that we have access and available to us. Because ultimately, we're here to clear the karmic experiences that we have had. We may not mentally remember them, and we may not need to. But we can process it. And going through that process of feeling the emotion, healing it on a spiritual level, brings that healing, so to speak, for yourself, for your generations, and your bloodline. So I walk them through that process with what is showing up and why is that experience so indicative to that person. And we uncover that, because then that gives individuals a different perspective of why they're feeling that emotion. And there is a reason why we feel an element of victim mentality. To a certain degree, we're meant to.
Okay, so here's what's coming to mind while you explained that, and I'm so visual, so I got all kinds of different visuals going on in there. But are you ultimately talking about triggers?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I just want, if somebody's new to this work, that buzzword trigger, I think of it as like a check engine light. When experiences happen or somebody says something to you and you feel reactive, feel the emotion. So is it anger, frustration, impatience, depression, worry, fear, anxiety? Those are your quote triggers, the check engine light, that is what wants to be felt and released, right?
Right. So
And
when you feel that, yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that's what's uncomfortable, but that's the liberation, right?
It's an awareness.
Okay. And so what you
It's
were
an
sharing there
awareness.
and what came to mind, so I've watched different documentaries. Heal documentary is one. Emotion 2.0 is another great one. But so they
Yeah.
talk about different modalities. Do you do anything like EFT, tapping, Psych K? You don't do any of those?
No, no, because I work with individuals on the soul. I start with their soul and I work out.
Awesome.
I don't work on a third dimensional out, in. I work from the inside out. I work from the root cause and then we unravel it.
Okay, I love that. Can you please share an example, whether it's personally or through a client, somebody kind of stuck, how you helped them liberate these emotions and now what's possible on the other side of that?
Emotions can get really difficult. How we breathe and how we react in the world when there's a reaction that hits real hard, like an immediate reflex. The faster the reflex and the bigger the reflex, the more work that needs to be done. Just to add to your definition of trigger. So I support individuals who have gone through that process, and perhaps one of them is feeling bogged down with life, tired of it showing the same patterns of being left alone or being guilted or being shamed or feeling like an imposter or not recognizing what that voice really is. And how everything seems to be so loud. But when one needs to be still and quiet, feeling the guilt of codependent relationships. So I've worked with many clients, and the one had gone through a lot of self-negative talk and infliction. From family concerns and issues of being the parent when you're the child, to really seeing the pattern in relationships, the relationships of intimate relationships, of feeling inferior, not feeling powerful, and taking a stronger stance for who she really was. So I support them to unravel that, and by working with me, it gave her a bigger concept, a bigger understanding, an awareness of why all this stuff really happened. Why did she come into carnation with those parents? Why did she come into relationship with those men? And what's the lesson to be learned, and how can that be released and healed? But also looking at her past lineage too, so her grandparents. And unraveling that, and what it gave her at the end of it was an opportunity to feel more confident in who she is, awaken these energetic gifts that she has, and trusting and leaning into learning a new language called your intuition and the energy world, because it is a new language. It gets suppressed very, very early on when we incarnate. So empowering individuals to align with their soul. So when life experiences happen, because they're supposed to happen, we have the right tools to be able to transform this thing called energy and move through it rather than getting stuck in it.
So, yes, I love the saying that emotions are energy in motion. When they're
Yes.
trapped in the body, anytime there's chronic pain, chronic illness, those are trapped emotions. But ultimately, what I heard from you, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard is that when we do this internal work, when we release those emotions, and I'm curious if you talk much on forgiveness, so I'll come back to that. But when we do that, that is how we get, quote, unstuck or out of our way and have a easier, more fulfilling life. Is that more or less?
More or less, yes, but there's a lot of heavy lifting that happens in between there.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, for sure.
Yeah. Do you do much, or is there focus on forgiveness?
Who are you forgiving?
Self, right?
For I touch on it a little bit, but I don't really emphasize it a lot because my greater concept is there's a reason why you experience what you experience.
Mm-hmm.
So are you forgiving your soul for having these experiences? No, because we were meant to have them, otherwise we won't grow.
Yeah.
Are you forgiving the other person? Yeah, we could do that. Are we forgiving God, universe, consciousness for putting us in this position? Why?
Yeah.
We're an aspect of it.
Yeah.
So from the context of how forgiveness has been positioned in the world of consciousness and in the world of self-help, I don't lean into it with that perspective. No.
Okay. And I guess for me, what I mean by that, or maybe what I've experienced is when I'm holding on to the thoughts of an experience, and then I sit in that anger and that frustration and that resentment, if I don't let go or forgive those thoughts, then I feel like I'm chained to them. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I guess that experience of letting go, like you can choose to be happy or you can be right. And I just want to be happy in my life. I guess for me, that's the no longer being tied to that, which I feel like could be an energy blocker.
Right.
Here's what I want to ask you that you touched on, and I'm fascinated with this idea of it, but can you talk more about what is intuition, how we tune in, and the energetics of all of this?
Intuition is your soul speaking to you ever so quietly that we forget to listen to it because the external noises are so loud.
I'd love to hear how you experience it. For me, you're right. It's very subtle. It's like whispers. I almost sometimes they're nudges, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's a thought. A lot of times it doesn't make sense, but I've learned to follow it anyway. I'd love to hear how, well, maybe what are your daily rituals tuning in, but how do you feel it or sense it or tune in?
You tune in by bringing your awareness into your heart is one mechanism. There are a gazillion of them out there. So you can move your awareness inwards and just listen. Just be present. And as you connect with that and be present with it, it will whisper something to you. And then follow that. Remember what it feels like. Because ultimately, our attention needs to go outside. We need to do things outside because we live in a world where we've got to do stuff. So as you remember that, remember what it feels like in your body and come back to it.
I'd love to share. So for me, I've definitely experienced these intuitive nudges, messages, downloads. Sometimes I refer to them as. I've done it definitely in Shavasana in yoga.
Mhm.
So present, so still. Like that was one of my favorites. I've also experienced it running because for me, running, I'm so present. I love the runner's high. I'm in nature, which is it feels like home to me. So I've experienced quote downloads there. But how have you experienced those or what has it led you to if you could give any examples?
It's led me to where I am today.
Yeah.
It's led me to where I am today in doing the work to supporting others. I've been through the corporate structure. I've lived there for many years. And in coming out of that was all an intuitive messaging.
Mm.
And it was perhaps 6, 7 years ago, if not longer than that, where I only followed my intuition. Logically, it didn't make sense to me make this move and that move and go here and go there. But I learned to listen to it because as uncomfortable that scenario was, I needed to get there so I could do what I'm truly set out to do.
I'm curious if you've experienced this, but for me, I shared with you, I consider myself a recovering type A. I was a planner, my social calendar, planning 6 months, a year out, travels, everything. And now I've shifted and moved into I don't really plan anything in advance. I don't like to committing to even social plans 4 weeks down the road. Do you still plan things in advance or do you stay very present? What will you do today?
I think with the world that we live in, there is a huge component where some of the bigger things need to be planned. Trajectory of goals and objectives to a certain degree in terms of how you want to envision what your life to look like, whatever time frame that may be, but allowing that flexibility to happen because we know time is so fluid, right?
Hmm.
So there is a component in planning in my own life, but not to the rigidity of what it was before, and not to the rigidity where there is no opportunity to flow. In my business and with my clients, there is some sort of structure and formula in place, because otherwise I'd be sitting here doing client work 24/7. Because I sit with the energy space with my clients. So there is some component of planning, but much of it is intuitively led. Yeah.
I have a question for you. I'd love to hear some of your daily rituals and then maybe something you can offer others that they could practice and implement in their life on how to connect into the heart, how to let go of distractions. But first, what are some of your daily practices?
Going out in nature, taking time for myself, especially upon rising, it's really crucial to be in your own energy and in your own state. Recognizing and observing what's come through in dream state, because I get a lot of information that way, downloading it, recording it, and then sitting with that and unwrapping it. I do energy clearings and healings daily, not only for myself, but on a global level. So that's a huge component of my daily practice. And try to be present. Try to be present. Have some laughs along the way because the work that we do can be very heavy and it can be a little dark because we tap into some of those energies to be able to bring light to them so we can transform them. So have some laughs along the way.
For sure. And again, it's like not to take things so serious, to have fun. You know what I heard? There was somebody shared a compilation of all their laughs. And listening to her, I was like, I don't remember the last time like I had one of those deep, the belly laughs where you're like almost arched over because it hurts,
That's
but
right.
you can't stop. I don't know the last time I had one of those.
Yeah, it's been
And
a
so
while, huh?
even for me, that was a reminder of I gotta have more, like I need to laugh more.
That's right.
Be silly, be childlike. That was something one of my first coaches taught me. Be more childlike.
Absolutely. It's important. It's important because that's also an indicator of the vibrational frequency that we operate on. You know, we can be in tune and present, but a good laugh, even laugh in yoga, that's picked up some tractions over the years, I think.
Okay.
Is an opportunity to lift your vibrational frequency for sure.
Can you please explain vibration and frequency? What do those even mean? And how can we actually learn to steer our vibration and frequency rather than allowing life to take over?
Steering it is awareness, because one can often be in an emotional state and not be aware that you're in it. So first is to take stock of how you feel and what is the emotion that's showing up. And does it warrant to be in that space at that time? Is there validity to being angry at that person who just cut you off at the lights while you was driving and holding on to that for another 5 minutes? Does it warrant your time and energy? Ask yourself questions like that. And vibration it has been connected to emotions. Hawkins has created a vibrational scale. So the lower the hertz, the lower the emotional connection to it. Depression, sadness, grief. The higher the frequency, the joy, the bliss, the love, the laughter. And we go through all of them throughout any given moment. So the more we can be aware of it, it's not to stay away from it and flip it into the higher in frequency all the time when we feel lower in one. It's to be aware that I just experienced the sadness. Okay, I can remember that. And then say, okay, now I can choose to move out into a higher frequency or into an emotion of joy. It's a little bit like turning the dial on a radio. If people have dials on their radios still. Yeah. We can tune certain emotions out and tune into other emotions. But I'm a believer every single emotion that shows up for a reason and needs to be addressed. Yeah. Awareness needs to be created for a space. So keep continuously turning the dial to high vibration, happy joy all the time will serve you short term. Because those bigger lessons will continue and continue and continue to creep up to weight your attention. And it's our job to do that.
Yes, I think it's important to note what you're sharing is we have the emotional guidance scale is something that's coming to mind, and people can Google this. It's something I talk about. But I almost think of it as like rungs on a ladder. The higher up you get on a rung, that's when you hit the love and all those emotions. And what you're saying is do not suppress these emotions. It's not about, oh, I'm feeling anger and I need to suppress it. We have to express it. But it's the whole like not getting stuck in that low vibe emotions, right? And then something that came to mind when you were sharing this idea of vibration and frequency, maybe people have heard of the term law of attraction. Mm-hmm. And I think of life as a boomerang. Whatever we're thinking and feeling emits a quote vibration or frequency. Life is a boomerang. What we put out, we get back, right?
Right.
That's what karma is.
Yeah. To a certain degree, yes. But there are many other additional laws too. I mean, law of attraction has caught a lot of traction. But there are many, many other universal laws that come into effect as well. So it's not just the one. I mean, you work and you're aware of the quantum space. So we know that there are many other laws involved in that too.
Yes. Okay, here's what I want to ask you. What is a key takeaway you want listeners to get from our conversation?
Go into stillness and listen. Doesn't mean you need to sit like a yogi or turn yourself into a pretzel. But just sit, no distractions, and just listen and observe. Observe all of those thoughts that are coming in and out of your mind. Got to do laundry, got to do groceries, pick up the kids, go here, just observe them. And recognizing they're not yours.
I don't know if it was Byron Katie or whose work, but it's remembering that we have thoughts, we are not our thoughts.
Yeah.
And that was a big clarification, because I think what happens for many people, thinking thoughts and latching onto them, and that's how they get stuck down the rabbit hole.
Right. We claim ownership of them, right?
Yeah.
Well, like, of course, if I've got to do groceries, that means the grocery is going to be for me because that's my thought. Of course it's for me, but it's really not.
So the importance is being an observer of your thoughts. And I, you know what I use ultimately is like living in a state of curiosity. Like, that's an interesting thought. Do I want to latch onto that? Is that serving me? And if not, think of it as clouds, right? Let it go.
For a beginner, absolutely. Yes, that's absolutely the invitation I would offer them, is to let it go. Just observe it, let it go. Observe it, let it go. Yeah. Until you can expand your awareness and consciousness to be able to look at that. Because every single thing that shows into your awareness shows in for a reason. Not for, I look at you and I'm going to let you go. There's more to unravel there.
Yeah.
So, but as a beginner, absolutely. Observe it and let it go.
And a word you actually, I'm going to bring this up, that you said earlier was patterns. And I think that's important to recognize. And it's something that happened to me, I think it was in my late 20s. I kept dating different guys with the same scenarios happening. And then I realized, oh, I'm the common denominator. Pay attention to the patterns, because if that's how you learn the lesson. And then when you learn the lesson, it's like that stuff falls away.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. But it's uncovering also the reason why. So we can observe the lesson, but if that vibrational frequency, if that energy that's provoking that pattern at the root isn't resolved consciously, you're still going to continuously do that.
Yeah. That's something I talk about: pull the weeds and plant new seeds. We don't mow the garden. We're not trying to make it look prettier. You got to get them out.
Yes. On an energetic level, on a much deeper energetic level. Absolutely. Yes.
So here's what I'd love to do to wrap up the interview. I have a few rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
What is a quote or motto that you live by?
Be the change you want to see in the world. Yeah, by Gandhi.
Yes. Is there a specific book maybe that you're reading or that has helped you on your journey?
There's been a number of them. And I'm not one for rereading books, but sometimes I'll do a rapid, open a page on it. So a number of have been Eckhart Tolle books, Greg Braden books, and The Seat of Your Soul by Gary Zukav. For sure.
Finally, what advice would you give your younger self?
Trust and lean into that whisper.
Yes.
Trust it.
And such a great note to end on. Naranjan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.